Chapter 11 Behead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A year ago, Fugaku had defeated the Divine Fire and become the Uchiha clan's strongest. To become the clan head, he had to be flawless in ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, clang. A steel kunai struggled to hold back Sodi no Shirayuki, meeting an incredible force. Jing, you're a genius, but even geniuses need time to grow, ding. The kunai snapped, leaving a clean break. Fugaku's pupils narrowed. He knew Kagami Uchiha had a secret technique to shoot invisible wind blades from his fingertips, but he didn't expect him to use it through weapons, too. Fortunately, with the Sharingan's sharp vision, he barely dodged the slash that had sliced through the kunai. He touched the bloody skin on his neck. That's cold. How can you treat your clan leader so mercilessly? Cut the crap. Jing Uchiha charged with his sword. If Sasuke hadn't been born, he might have been taken out by a few of Kagami's sneak attacks. That invisible slash was terrifying for ambushes and assassinations. Fugaku now focused on the fight, kunai in both hands. The two attacked, separating just before impact in a way that was hard to describe. Good thing the watchers were all Uchiha, many with Sharingan activated. They're predicting each other's every move. Supposedly a battle of skill, it was really a showdown of insight between visual jutsu users. The longer it went on, the more worried Fugaku became. His Sharingan wasn't as sharp as Kagami Uchiha's. What terrifying talent. He couldn't win with swordsmanship. Making up his mind, Fugaku broke off the fight and began forming hand seals. Fire release, fireball jutsu. Jing Uchiha swung his sword, slicing the fireball apart. Dozens of fireballs rushed toward him. The great fireball was just a distraction. The Phoenix Sage fire technique was the real attack. All the flames were controlled by chakra, making them hard to dodge. Through the flames, Jing Uchiha spotted shurikens also controlled by chakra. It's like Itachi Uchiha's impatience claw. No, that's like saying the father's like the son. As the ultimate escape technique, fire release is usually countered by water release. If you aren't comfortable with water release, Kagami Uchiha quickly formed seals, ending with the tiger seal. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu. A fire dragon burst from Kagami Uchiha's mouth, losing none of its power as it smashed the fireball. This technique focused on power and accuracy, not range. The fire dragon shot into the sky, its light almost blinding, the heat choking. Like being in a furnace, it burned and warped the air. Everyone knew all Uchiha could use fire style, using the fire dragon as cover. Kagami Uchiha closed on Fugaku, reaching out his palm toward his face. Compared to the dragon, Kagami Uchiha's gesture unnerved Fugaku even more. Fugaku knew this young man had a secret, high-level technique, almost a bloodline trait. Release, shriek. The air cracked, letting out a sharp whistle. A barrage of slashes hit Fugaku. Bang. A shadow clone. Seeing the explosion, Jing Uchiha wasn't surprised. His Sharingan eyes darted around, then stopped. Above, Jing Uchiha looked up at a sea of fire. It was like the flames of hell, about to drown the world. Fire release, fire extinguishment. Ninjutsu strength depends on the user. Fugaku's fire release wasn't Uchiha Madara's, but still shocked many in the clan. Divine Fire frowned, pulling chakra to his feet, wanting to save Kagami Uchiha in time. Brother, little Shursui yelled in fear, ready to rush into the fight before a clan member held him back. Facing the wall of fire, Kagami Uchiha didn't react. His body floated up as the invisible blades shaved the ground below. In the spiritual space, through the seal, Sukuna's 4 eyes were fixed on the outside world. Little devil, you're really something. Squeak squeak squeak. The cutting grew louder, drowning out the fire. The blue blade spun around Kagami Uchiha faster and faster, like a storm. Every sword glowed, slicing the air, a thrilling melody of swords. What ninjutsu is that? What a terrifying feeling. The sea of fire approached, lighting up Kagami Uchiha's smiling face. He held up 2 fingers and flicked them. He named it Ninjutsu Slash, 1000 Blade Style Kajigen. Rumble. An endless stream of blue blades roared, destroying the sea of fire. Wiping out everything. Fugaku jumped high, eyes wide. He had seen how vicious Kagami Uchiha could be, had used everything he had, and it had been broken like that. Facing the endless blades, Fugaku gritted his teeth and formed a seal, Great Dragon Fire technique. 3 fire dragons roared out, circling him, using offensive fire escape for defense showed his strong ninjutsu control. The fire dragons fell one by one, but the blade flow also slowed. Fugaku relaxed, then saw a silver blue light. What was that? Jing Uchiha held a spinning chakra ball, pressing it hard against his chest. Rasengan. Boom! The impact was like a cannon blast, knocking Fugaku from the air and kicking up a cloud of dust. Clan leader. Fugaku. Captain. Many clan members rushed to the dust cloud. Some quickly used wind release to clear the air. In a large, spiral pit, Fugaku stood on his knees, clothes torn. The Rasengan was strong, continuously injecting energy into the target, setting off explosions and destruction over a wide area. A spiral wound marked Fugaku's chest. His chakra was chaotic and hard to control. Ignoring the blood from his mouth, he stared at Kagami Uchiha. A powerful technique, Kagami, you're truly a genius. Kagami Uchiha was breathing hard, chakra almost gone. They both had 3 tomo, but the Sharingan couldn't do much. In a head-on fight, his chakra was no match for Fugaku's. He had to use all-out power to get an edge. Jing Uchiha looked up and smirked, typical of you. He knew he wasn't as talented as Minato Namikaze and Itachi Uchiha, and didn't have Naruto and Sasuke's 6 paths cheat. Sukuna inside him would never be a partner. Everything he wanted, he had to fight for. Starting at 2, for nearly 2,000 days and nights, he hadn't stopped training. When you don't want to face things you can't talk about, you can only blame your lack of ability. His hands trembled from the chakra output, gripping Sodi no Shirayuki. Kagami Uchiha slowly walked toward Fugaku steadied himself. Though injured, he could still fight. Clatter. Divine fire blocked their path. That's enough. The fight would kill someone. Shinhwa didn't want that. Chapter 12 Ronin, Hatake Sakumo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing that, Uchiha Jing lowered the hand with the knife. He was willing to cut Shinhwa some slack, especially since he'd gained a lot from him. Fugaku, on the other hand, wasn't thrilled. Even though Uchiha Kagami didn't seem injured, he was getting his butt kicked. If it ended like this, what would that say about him as the clan leader? Elder Shinhwa. Fugaku started to argue, his face dark, but a pair of hands grabbed his arm. Uchiha Mikoto's soft face showed worry as she shook her head. With a helpless sigh, Fugaku lowered his hand. Uchiha Jing showed no interest in grabbing the clan leader spot. Thanks for the pointers, clan leader. Congrats on the birth of your son. I'm out of here. Sure sway, let's bounce. As Uchiha Jing walked away, the remaining Uchiha members, instead of being angry about the disrupted celebration, just stared blankly. Maybe we're wrong. Not just Master Izuna, maybe he can connect with the legendary one. Alright. Shinhwa cut them off. Nobody breathes a word about what happened here today. The clan leader needs to rest. Break it up, people. The village was always watching the Uchiha, but they didn't have eyes everywhere. Shinhwa frowned, watching Uchiha Jing disappear. He didn't know about the upcoming ninja world war and thought Uchiha Kagami was getting ahead of himself. As the leader of the radicals, he didn't get why Jing chose this time to flex. The truth was simple. Uchiha Jing wasn't lying. He just wanted to test his strength. The Ninja Academy kids were a joke, and regular Jonin never got a shot at fighting him. Going after the village's top dogs was a bad idea. After some thought, Fugaku seemed like the best choice. On the way back, Sukuna's voice boomed. Fusion of slash and chakra, kid. That move was weak sauce. Easy, dog breath. You think I didn't hear you muttering earlier? Uchiha Jing shot back. Sukuna scoffed, I'm not gonna deny your talent, I just think, compared to a domain expansion, that technique of yours lacks punch. You know me so well, you must know the power of the domain. Little ghost, strike a deal with me. I won't jack your body. I already got one. I'll teach you the domain and the 10 shadows technique. Just 3 minutes once a year. That's all I need. It's been too long since I've had the pleasure of killing. You already hate those Konoha bigwigs. How about I help you off them? Uchiha Jing thought Sukuna could probably take out those third-generation guys, but he worried about running into Uzumaki Kushina. Besides the still-living Hashirama Senju, the strongest force in every generation of Konoha was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Uchiha Jing, as Sukuna's Jinchuriki, wasn't confident he could handle that firecracker. Sealing techniques were OP in the ninja world. Even Kagaya Otsutsuki couldn't beat them. They said the monsters from the demon country could destroy the ninja world, but even they got sealed by some girl. What if they let Sukuna out, and some sealing master suddenly showed up and locked him down like an evil god? Sukuna, I'm serious. This world's dangerous. Staying inside me isn't a cage. I'm protecting you. Who do you think you're talking to? I don't need protection. You jerk. Sukuna exploded. Make more noise, and you're going into the dark room for a month, Uchiha Jing said calmly. Sukuna shut up. He could handle the darkness, as long as he could see the outside world sometimes. The next day, Kakashi sighed in relief, watching his dad make breakfast. Dad. Hatake Sakumo called Kakashi over to eat. They ate in silence for a bit, then Hatake Sakumo spoke. Kakashi. I decided to follow my gut. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just a loser who breaks the rules. Hatake Sakumo smiled weakly and went on. But I think people who don't value their teammates are worse than trash. Yeah. I'm with you, Dad. Hatake Sakumo smiled, relieved. He was most worried about Kakashi not understanding. Maybe that Uchiha kid was right. Don't overthink it. Kakashi's feelings are all that matter. Hatake Sakumo took his white-fanged short sword from behind him and laid it on the table. Kakashi, you're all grown up. I need to tell you the whole story. Kakashi had a bad feeling. I did think about killing myself, but I don't want to give anyone the satisfaction. The man known as Konoha's White Fang had a sharp glint in his eye. I want to leave the village. Kakashi's eyes widened, and he jumped up. Dad. I'll. Hatake Sakumo held up his hand. He put his big hand on Kakashi's head, smiling. You have friends here, right? Protect yourself and your friends. I'll always be watching over you and loving you. Whatever choices you make in the future, I'll be there for you. Goodbye, Kakashi. You have to take care of yourself. Bang! A puff of smoke. Kakashi was left alone, silent and blank, tears streaming down his face. Outside Konoha village, Hatake Sakumo paused, a long sigh escaping him as he got the memories from his shadow clone. He looked back at the village he loved, his eyes full of mixed emotions. Swish. 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 A dozen ninjas wearing strange masks appeared instantly. Hatake Sakumo, what do you think you're doing, leaving the village without permission? One of them yelled. Hatake Sakumo looked at them calmly. The root. As one of Konoha's elite jonin, he knew about this secret group hidden in the shadows. That guy ran the show. Hatake Sakumo took one last look at Konoha village and turned to leave. Tell Danzo that if he touches Kakashi, I'll kill him. Bastard. How dare you threaten Lord Danzo? Several root ninjas charged, swords drawn, but before they could even reach him, a white streak flashed, heavy thuds followed. Blood splattered, and the bodies fell. A wave of murderous intent washed over the area, making these brutally trained root ninjas tremble. They couldn't even grip their weapons. This man, who was leagues above them, the Konoha White Fang, feared on the battlefield. These shadows of root couldn't touch him. That's not a threat. It's a promise. Hatake Sakumo's last words faded. Whether it's betraying the village or running away, maybe becoming a Ronin is all that's left for someone like me. Chapter 13, The Nimbus Popsicle Inspires Jiraiya Uzumaki #039, S Double Style Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. News of Sakumo Hatake's escape was kept under wraps. The official story was that he was on a top-secret mission. The White Fang of Konoha was, without a doubt, the Hokage's deadliest weapon. His disappearance would be a major blow. This situation triggered a fierce argument in the Hokage's office. Declares Sakumo Hatake an S-rank traitor. He knows too much. Mobilize every Umbu operative if we have to, but he must be eliminated. Danzo Shimura slammed his fist on the table, yelling. Hiruzen Sarutobi stared at him, his gaze growing colder. Besides them, 2 other high-ranking advisors were present. All 4 of Konoha's legendary figures were in the room. Koharu Utatane spoke quietly. Danzo is right. Sakumo Hatake is a walking security risk. If another village gets their hands on him, it would be a disaster. Hamura Mitokado remained silent, but his opinion was clear, fighting to keep his anger in check. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at them and said in a raspy voice, I trust Sakumo. He just needs to get away and clear his head, that's all. Hiruzen. Let me make this perfectly clear. Hiruzen Sarutobi fixed Danzo Shimura with an icy stare. If Sakumo has truly gone rogue, who exactly do you suggest should go after him? Me? Or Kushina? Or perhaps, you, Danzo Shimura? Hiruzen Sarutobi was furious, and it all started with Danzo leaking the mission's details. This whole mess could have been handled quietly. Sakumo could have made amends for the damage to the village later. Now, because of all this, Sakumo Hatake's chances of ever becoming Hokage were gone. Hiruzen believed that a true Hokage, when faced with a choice between the mission and their comrades, would sacrifice themselves to protect the village. Both the second Hokage and he himself felt that way. He wanted his disciple to become Hokage, but he wouldn't frame Sakumo Hatake to make it happen. He was mad at Danzo Shimura, and he was mad at Sakumo Hatake. What was the big deal? So, some people said a few things. Was that a good reason to run away? This is the village you've known since birth. Your son still lives here. Danzo Shimura was at a loss for words. They all knew just how powerful Konoha's White Fang was. If there were a Kage-level rating above Jonin, Sakumo Hatake would be a strong contender. Every Jonin was an elite ninja, but against White Fang's blade, they were just average. Before the Yellow Flash came along, Konoha's White Fang held the record for the most kills in the ninja world. Danzo Shimura didn't consider himself weaker than Sakumo Hatake. If they fought, his odds were probably 60-40, he had a 60% chance of winning. But, it wasn't worth it. He had more important things to do. The ninja world was changing fast. If Hiruzen screwed up, he'd have to step in and take charge. After a moment's thought, Danzo Shimura decided to change tactics, and said gravely, then I'll hand over the spy networks in each village. Who do you think is better suited to manage them? Once the handover is complete, I will personally hunt down Sakumo Hatake. Now Hiruzen Sarutobi was silent. Even if no one else knew what Danzo Shimura did, he knew. It was a top-secret operation that even the other 2 advisors couldn't know about. Where else would he find a black ops guy as hardworking and discreet as Danzo Shimura? He sighed helplessly. Let's hold off for now. Kakashi is still in the village. Sakumo won't do anything to hurt him. It wasn't like there wasn't a precedent. Jiraiya stayed in the Rain Village for years. Then, Hamura Mitokado spoke. Jiraiya and Minato are back. Minato learned the Flying Thunder God technique from the second Hokage. They might be able to track down Sakumo Hatake. Hiruzen Sarutobi shot him a displeased look. I've already made a decision, and you're still trying to chase after him? Are you deaf? They just went up against the tailed beasts from the Rock Village. Let them get some rest. Hiruzen Sarutobi exhaled a plume of smoke. Come to think of it, Kagami, Uchiha and Kakashi can both be trained by Jiraiya and Minato. Hearing the name Uchiha, Danzo's alarms went off. No. Kakashi is fine, but Kagami Uchiha is definitely not someone Jiraiya should be teaching. Thinking of how Danzo Shimura often took the blame for him, Hiruzen Sarutobi softened his tone. Danzo, when you hear the name, all you think about is Uchiha? Kagami was our friend, remember? Hamura Mitokado and Koharu Utatane showed a hint of nostalgia, but Danzo Shimura remained unmoved. Kagami was influenced by the second Hokage, and he's not a successor, just an Uchiha with the same name. Just listen to his choice of words. Even for their classmate, Danzo Shimura refused to say, train. He used the word inspire instead. It was easy to imagine what kind of twisted image he had of the Uchiha. We have to try. What if he becomes a valuable member of the village, like Kagami? Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled kindly. Well, it's almost dinner time, and your family's got something waiting, so I won't keep you here. Too many people were here for Danzo Shimura to start a scene. He glared at Hiruzen Sarutobi hatefully, then turned and left. If I were Hokage, if I were chosen as Hokage, the Uchiha would be brought to heel. Second Hokage, why didn't you choose me? At that time, I was so close. Danzo was still dwelling on the fact that he was a step late in sacrificing himself, but if he could go back in time, he would speak up to cover the retreat. Maybe the second Hokage would have a chance to survive. Konoha training grounds. Looking at the wrecked ground, Jiraiya walked slowly forward. It's too hard to control a ball of chakra that's spinning that fast. Jiraiya approached Minato Namikaze, who was standing in a pit. I heard it's easier to refine chakra by following the direction your hair whirls. If this technique. Minato Namikaze panted and smiled ruefully, that's just an old wives' tale. Maybe, maybe not. I refine chakra in a clockwise direction. Let me see which direction yours goes. Hey, you've got two, one to the left and one to the right. Forget it, let's take a break. Jiraiya pulled a twin popsicle out of his bag and broke it in half. Which side do you want? Either one. Suddenly, Minato Namikaze had an idea and stopped his outstretched hand. Either one, is fine. Without even eating the popsicle, Minato Namikaze jumped up and began refining his chakra again. If you refine chakra the same way, no matter which direction you go in, a faint blue light appeared. Jiraiya sighed as he looked at the chakra ball, now stable, in Minato's hands. Of course, you're a true genius, Minato. Minato Namikaze's face lit up with joy. I've got the basics down. I'm going to call it Jiraiya's Double Twist Popsicle Raisingan. Except for naming talent, Jiraiya shook his head and said with a smile, then you should take a break. The third Hokage wants to talk to me. He wants me to bring an Uchiha brat and Sakumo's son to you later, so you can meet them. Uchiha. Minato dissipated the chakra ball and smiled. They tend to be pretty reserved. The Uchiha I've worked with weren't good at expressing themselves. Chapter 14 Jiraiya. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kakashi and Kagami Uchiha got called into the Hokage's office first thing. Aside from the start of the school year, this was Kagami Uchiha's first real up-close interaction with the third Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi, everyone knew, was a chain smoker. Even with kids right in front of him, he was still puffing on his pipe, blowing out clouds of purple smoke. It was hard to believe this hunched-over old guy held the highest authority in the land of fire. Yeah, the ultimate power. Ever since ninja villages were a thing, the Kage of each village decided when to go to war or call a truce. When the second Hokage went to the Hidden Cloud village to sign a peace treaty, did he need the daimyo's permission? Does the third Hokage need the daimyo's okay to transfer his subordinates? Still, even hundreds of thousands of ninjas are nothing compared to the millions of regular folks, and you need a figurehead like a daimyo to lead those regular folks. The Fire Country's daimyo technically has the power to appoint the Hokage, but the truth is, Konoha chooses its own Hokage generation after generation. Even Danzo, the 5.5th Hokage, could intimidate the daimyo with just a look. But what good is a stamp of approval from the daimyo, anyway? The village's jonin didn't have faith in him, and even when he died, nobody thought Danzo had ever actually been Hokage. Only those faces carved into the Hokage rock count as Hokage. Like, in the Third and Fourth Ninja World Wars, the Kage of each village decided to start the fight, and the daimyos just had to rubber stamp it. Even the Sand Village, which always struggled the most economically, teamed up with Orochimaru and planned a Konoha crush to flex their muscles to the Wind Country daimyo. That ended up being a bit of a joke, though. Snapping back to reality, Kagami Uchiha nodded. I've heard of Lord Jiraiya, the legendary ninja known as one of the Sannin. Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled warmly. You're quite talented. I want you to graduate early and train under Jiraiya. If you do well, you might even become his disciple. The youngest jonin ever, Minato Namikaze, is his student. Jiraiya. Minato Namikaze, Jing Uchiha's mind was racing. The third Hokage played it cold with the Uchiha clan massacre. In Jing's mind, that was never a good thing, but before it all went down, you could tell Hiruzen Sarutobi still wanted to make things right with the Uchiha. Maybe that's why he promoted Minato, who was close to the Uchiha, so fast. What was Minato Namikaze like, anyway? He's like a freaking succubus in the ninja world. With that blonde hair, the Uchiha clan has a 1,000-year tradition, a rock-solid rule about never sharing the Sharingan, but for Minato, they made an exception, and he wasn't even the Hokage back then. Being connected with Jiraiya was basically the third Hokage signaling that he wanted to reconnect with the Uchiha. In every ninja village, the Kage position usually gets passed down from master to student, or father to son. The third Hokage wanted to tell the Uchiha they still had a chance, that they were still part of the village. Originally, he liked that Uchiha kid Obito more. He was friendly, not like a typical Uchiha, but now, Kagami Uchiha and Kakashi both had issues. One was a loner, and the other was lost because his dad split. They both needed help from a sunshine personality like Minato. Hadn't those Uchiha who knew Minato Namikaze become more cheerful? Hiruzen Sarutobi was playing his special attack card, the dark character's weakness, Minato Namikaze. Kakashi hadn't gotten over his dad leaving. He just nodded when Hiruzen Sarutobi spoke, not really caring. If Kagami Uchiha hadn't refused to leave the ninja academy, he would have graduated ages ago. Jing Uchiha had no reason to say no. Putting everything else aside, Jiraiya's teaching skills were something else. Nagato, Minato, Naruto, Naruto, several of his students are Kage level, and even Yahiko reached the level of Heavenly Path. It would be awesome to be Jiraiya's apprentice. I want to kill your teacher, but that won't stop me from being your apprentice. Besides, killing the master is a Konoha tradition. Bang. Yo. You two must be Kakashi and Mirror Boy. A tall guy with white hair was squatting on the Hokage's office windowsill. His long, white hair went down to his waist, and he had a red mark under his eyes that stood out. You idiot. Can't you use the damn door? Sarutobi Hiruzen cursed. Looking at the half-destroyed window, Jiraiya landed on the ground and patted Sarutobi Hiruzen's shoulder, all casual. You're getting old, man. Don't get so worked up, you'll hurt yourself. Humph. You know I'm old, so why don't you take over already? Hiruzen Sarutobi really wanted Jiraiya to be the next Hokage. He loved the village, cared about his friends, was strong, wanted peace, and liked the same stuff as Hiruzen. Haha, no way, I can't handle your job. Jiraiya laughed and looked at the two kids. Let me introduce myself, I'm Jiraiya, that's it. Jing Uchiha was ready with lines like Toad Sage. Hatake Kakashi. Uchiha Mirror. Those introductions were even simpler. Kamikuen. Jiraiya rubbed his chin and smiled. The old man mentioned a comrade of his with the same name. That's my grandpa, Jing Uchiha said bluntly. Unlike other time travelers, he's pretty secure in who he is. Grandma's family, Shirsue's family, and most of the clan, they're all family. People are people. Jing Uchiha will remember all the kindness they've shown him. Really? Then call me uncle. Kakashi, you too. Sakumo took good care of me back in the day. Jiraiya hugged both of them, and his spiky white hair scratched their young faces. Jing Uchiha almost stabbed him out of reflex. After struggling for a bit, and realizing he couldn't get free without going all out, he gave up. Looking at Jiraiya with the same dead fish eyes as Kakashi, Jing Uchiha said, Master Jiraiya, you smell like a woman's perfume. It's way too strong. Haha, you're wrong. That's the smell of good food. You'll get a taste of it sometime. Jiraiya awkwardly let go of them and looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen. The two old perverts looked away, both guilty. He jumped up onto the windowsill and waved at the two of them. Come on, you two. I don't take just anyone. My first test is to catch up to me. Kakashi glanced over at Kagami Uchiha. Why are you looking at me? Do you even know me? Jing Uchiha shook his head, watching the little white-haired kid chase the big white-haired one. This Jiraiya is so socially skilled that a socially anxious person like me can't handle him. Sarutobi Hiruzen was looking at him with a smile. If you don't go now, you'll lose to Kakashi. He knew how to provoke an Uchiha. Uchiha just scoffed. I'll give him 3 minutes, then he'll be eating my dust. Jinkuin is confident. He jumped onto the windowsill and looked back at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Uchiha couldn't see any bad intentions in those eyes. What a complicated guy. That's right, people are complicated. Kagami Uchiha channeled chakra to his feet and took off. He caught up with Kakashi in no time, passing him without a word. Jerk. How dare you ignore me? Kakashi gritted his teeth and sped up, but the distance between them kept growing. Gradually, Uchiha realized something was off. Jiraiya suddenly sped up and disappeared, moving faster than any ordinary jonin. It was like something urgent had just happened. Uchiha's mind raced, and his eyes turned red. He saw it. He sensed it. That ridiculously powerful chakra. It's the nine-tailed fox. Chapter 15 Nine-Tail. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Violent chakra waves ripped through the forest, painting the sky with ominous black and red streaks. It was a sign of destruction, the strongest of the tailed beasts, the nine tails. Only when you're face to face with this monster can you truly grasp its power. The scorching chakra burned and warped the air, its raw force capable of leveling mountains, shattering rocks, and decimating forests. What is that? Sukuna's voice was deep, laced with a disturbing excitement. What a world. This thing's power. I can feel it. I want to tear it apart. Trapped in a sea of blood and corpses, Sukuna, in his four-armed, two-faced form, roared. Let me out. Let me kill it. I know it. My destiny is to butcher that monster and devour its flesh. Uchiha Kagami stood outside the vortex of insane chakra, while Kakashi arrived, visibly shaken. Wild dogs don't get a destiny. Be quiet. Uchiha Kagami suppressed Sukuna's connection to the outside. He knew the Ninetails' abilities all too well. The Ninetails could sense malice, and nobody was more malicious than Sukuna. The last thing he needed was for the Ninetails to sense him. The Ninetails' chakra began to corrupt Kushina's skin, manifesting into 3 massive chakra tails. Minato Namikaze was by her side, his hand pressed against her abdomen, weaving a seal. Uchiha Kagami watched intently, his Sharingan spinning. Sealing techniques were notoriously difficult to master. Few ninjas excelled in both ninjutsu and sealing. Even a ninja like Kakashi had been surprised when Orochimaru saw him learn sealing techniques. Uchiha Kagami also knew sealing techniques, transcription seals linked to his eye power. He divided his power and secretly sealed it within Obito, biding his time. From what he could see, Minato Namikaze's sealing technique was advanced. It wasn't the 8 trigram sealing style he remembered, so it must be the 4-symbol seal, or at least a variation. The situation was tense. Jiraiya, never one to act rashly, worried that interference would only make things worse. Noticing Uchiha Kagami's gaze, he approached him. Kagami, what's happening? On any battlefield, a Sharingan user was invaluable. The Ninetails breaking free would be devastating for Konoha, as bad as any major war. He's trying to seal that chaotic chakra. Uchiha Kagami pretended not to know what that was. The red-haired woman is also using a sealing technique to help contain it. For now, things are stable. Jiraiya could only watch. He knew this was between Minato and Kushina. Suddenly, everything changed. A wave of red chakra blasted outward, throwing Jiraiya and the others back. Kushina was completely consumed by chakra. 6 tails, asterisk screech, starred at a hand covered in black and red chakra impaled Minato Namikaze. Minato! Get out of here! Kushina, drowning in the Ninetails chakra, screamed, her voice breaking. Run! Leave me! Minato Namikaze held firm, his expression unwavering. I won't leave. Never, but I can't lose you. I will never surrender Kushina to you. Nine-tailed fox. Inside the spiritual plane, the adamantine chains tightened, binding the nine-tailed fox. Minato Namikaze appeared, holding a chakra ball, facing the tailed beast bomb head-on. Then, a soft drip, a small figure entered the battlefield. Minato and the Ninetails were drawn to those eyes. It was Sharingan. The nine-tailed fox was enraged. It channeled all of its chakra into destroying everything. Seeing the Nine-Tails up close, Uchiha Kagami realized how wrong he'd been. Everyone saw the nine-tailed fox differently. The first Hokage had said its power was unparalleled, Mito and Kushina had said it represented destruction and chaos, Madara's words had made it seem like a servant of high power, diminishing its significance. But, even Hashirama, the god of shinobi, had needed his wife's sealing to restrain it. The chakra it possessed was more than all the other eight-tailed beasts combined. Ordinary sealing techniques were useless. The entire village needed to erect a barrier to help Kushina contain this monster. As for the idea that the Mangekyo Sharingan could control the Nine-Tails, Uchiha Kagami knew better. Not a chance. You couldn't control the nine-tailed fox with a normal Mangekyo. Sasuke was different. He was the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths son, as was Madara. Their eye power was in a league of its own, but, I am a special Uchiha. Uchiha Kagami was no one's reincarnation, but his own. Combined with his constant manipulation of Sukuna, he possessed vast spiritual energy. This spiritual plane was his domain. Surging pupil power filled the space as Uchiha Kagami shouted, I am Uchiha Kagami. I'm here to help contain this beast. Uchiha, Uchiha, Aeawiwa. The chains rattled violently. Kushina felt the Nine-Tails' strongest resistance yet. Ignoring this, Minato and Kushina tried to stop the tailed beast bomb. The two chakra spheres collided, creating a deadlock. Uchiha Kagami intentionally fueled the Nine-Tails' rage, secretly collecting some of its chakra and pulling it into his own spiritual plane. Originally, Minato Namikaze would have been able to seal the Nine-Tails, but with him involved, anything could happen. Seeing them struggle, Uchiha Kagami decided to intervene. Now, the Nine-Tails needed to stay inside Kushina. If he was going to take the Nine-Tails, it would have to wait until he was older. His scarlet pupil power surged towards the Nine-Tails' eyes. That feeling, the nine-tailed fox remembered the horror that man had inflicted upon it. The sensation of being a puppet was something no living being would ever want to experience. Besieged on all sides, it had little energy to fight Uchiha Kagami's power. Before losing consciousness, it stared in Uchiha Kagami's direction. Those cold, merciless eyes, that condescending gaze, like looking at livestock. Madara. Bastard. Reincarnated. You were reborn into the Uchiha clan. Damn you. Boom. The Nine-Tails was stunned by Minato Namikaze's Rasengan. Chains wrapped around its limbs, and then, silence. Chapter 16, Prejudices in People's Hearts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Konoha Hospital. So, this is your new student. Tsunade, usually so easygoing, crossed her arms, eyeing Kagami Uchiha by the window, and asked Jiraiya. Kagami always wore clothes emblazoned with the Uchiha crest, so Tsunade knew his clan right away. Frankly, thanks to her grandfather, she wasn't a big fan of the Uchiha clan. Jiraiya had just finished operating on Minato Namikaze. Seeing his student was stable, he finally had time to focus on other things. Kakashi and Kagami were by the window, peeling oranges. Kakashi meticulously peeled his orange. Kagami just ripped his orange in half and ate it, peel and all. The peels here didn't have pesticides, and eating them was more nutritious. They just tasted a little off, but Kagami didn't care. Haha, haven't decided yet, but thanks for your help this time, Kagami. Kagami nodded. I just felt like I could help, so I jumped in. Sorry if I overstepped. Kushina, who had been glued to Minato's bedside, shook her head when she heard that. The Nine-Tails almost got loose this time. We owe you big time. When Minato wakes up, we'll thank you properly. Hahaha, you two sound like an old married couple, Jiraiya teased, looking at Kushina's fiery red hair. Jiraiya quickly clammed up. He didn't want to get on her bad side, not with her temper. You've already awakened the 3-Tomo Sharingan at such a young age. Pretty impressive, Tsunade said, giving Kagami a knowing look. Kagami nodded, unfazed. Yeah, I guess I am pretty impressive. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, sensing something. You little punk, have you ever killed anyone? A veteran of countless battles, she could tell if someone had taken a life. Kagami was taken aback, but didn't deny it. Last year, some of the clan elders took me to wipe out a group of bandits. Those bandits that seemed so menacing to ordinary people were just experience points for rookie ninjas. Konoha purposely kept small-time bandit gangs around to give its ninjas some field training, so they wouldn't freeze up when they hit the battlefield. Kagami had actually gone with Shisui when he was only 5 years old. To get used to it, Tsunade's dislike intensified, killing people at such a young age. Typical Uchiha. What's worse, Kushina mentioned the Ninetales' final words. The name rang a bell with Kushina, so she asked Tsunade. Madara, that name was a nightmare for Tsunade. Hell, for the whole village. Did the Ninetales think this kid looked like Madara? Talent-wise, this kid was even scarier than the Uchiha Madara her grandfather described. Anyone who knew about the 7-year-old's 3-tomo Sharingan figured Kagami could reach Mangekyo level. 3-tomo meant you were Jonin level. Mangekyo spoke for itself, plus, this kid's chakra was so strong it could affect the Ninetales right now. Kagami knew what she was thinking and didn't regret showing off his eye power. Konoha didn't have the guts to break with the Uchiha clan. If they tried anything with him now, no matter what the cause, the Uchiha would blame the village elders, especially since he'd showed off his fighting skills to Uchiha Fugaku in front of a crowd of clan members. He represented the Uchiha future now. Of course, there were still risks, but if you backed down because of a little risk, you weren't a real Uchiha. He wasn't as arrogant as Sasuke. But you couldn't expect Kagami Uchiha to be Mr. Humble either. Tsunade asked, little devil, does taking a life give you pleasure? That she was testing his nature. Kagami frowned at her. I'm going to be a ninja. Bandits, enemy ninjas, they're just enemies that need to be taken down. Killing the enemy is normal. I don't get why you're asking this, Lady Tsunade. Tsunade frowned deeper. You little punk. You have no respect for life. He scoffed. Kagami tilted his head, his eyes ice-cold, his fake respect gone. What makes you think you can judge me? I don't think I need to respect the lives of my enemies, and I don't think you're qualified to judge me. Boom. The ward floor vibrated as Tsunade unleashed her chakra, clenching her fists. She glared at Kagami. What did you say? The 3-tomo Sharingan blazed as Kagami's hand went to the hilt of his sword. But he knew Tsunade had a weak spot now, and it would be easy to exploit. Enough. Don't you understand the situation? Jiraiya's face was grim, a rare sight. He yelled in a low voice. Tsunade, get out of here. Tsunade glanced at Kagami, restrained her chakra, gave Kushina a look, and the two walked out the door. With a sigh, Jiraiya plastered a smile back on his face and leaned toward Kagami. He squatted down, looked Kagami in the eye, and said calmly, you're not a kid anymore, so I can be straight with you. Tsunade's grandfather died because of your Uchiha clan's ancestor when he was young. Her grandfather is the first Hokage. So. Prejudice is a mountain you can't move, Kagami said. Jiraiya paused, then smiled. That's a damn good line. Mind if I use it in my book? Yeah, you should know that a lot of people in the village can't get over their prejudice against your clan. Jiraiya put his hand on Kagami's shoulder. I know there's a rift between the village and the Uchiha. It's going to take effort from both sides to fix it. So, are you willing to be my student, Kagami? His eyes were burning with sincerity. If it were the third Hokage who adopted him, perhaps he could really stand on the side of the village. However, Kagami knew very well that the conflict between Konoha and Uchiha was irreconcilable, because of Madara and also because of the second Hokage, until tracing back to Indra and Ashura, and even to Kagaya Otsutsuki and the Sage of Six Paths. If hatred could be resolved so easily, the world would not be filled with endless conflict. This battle will eventually end with one side's complete defeat. Despite this, Kagami flashed a genuine, childlike smile. Of course I do. Jiraiya-sensei. Chapter 17 Dinner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiraiya nodded, satisfied, then turned to Kakashi, who seemed lost in thought. That white hair just begs for a pat. Feeling a weight above his head, Kakashi looked up into Jiraiya's eyes. Kakashi, you still need to take the next test. Jiraiya announced. Understood, Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi replied. He didn't feel disappointed. He was still turning over Uchiha Kagami's words in his head. The prejudice in people's hearts. He'd seen firsthand the pressure his father had been under, and the Uchiha, they'd always been targets of that kind of prejudice. Even he felt like, Obito aside, the Uchiha were hard to get along with. Wasn't that a form of bullying? He figured Uchiha Kagami's words were an accusation, but Uchiha Jing's real thoughts. You think the Uchiha are going to bring disaster to Konoha? Fine, let's make that a reality. Just then, Minato Namikaze stirred on the hospital bed. As if waking up, Jiraiya hurried out to get Kushina, who was waiting outside. Tsunade wasn't around. She'd felt like she overreacted and didn't feel comfortable staying. Seeing the two reunited, embracing in the hospital bed, Jiraiya and the others tactfully left the room. As they walked down the hospital corridor, Kakashi couldn't help but ask Uchiha Jing quietly, "What was that monster?" Uchiha Jing shook his head. "I don't know. Ask Jiraiya-sama." Hearing their conversation, Jiraiya led them to a more secluded spot before explaining. In the history of the ninja world, which is full of wars, there's a terrifying force that's etched into everyone's minds alongside disasters. That kind of natural disaster, it's called a tailed beast. The first Hokage recognized the tailed beast's power and thought they could deter war, so they were captured and distributed to the villages. He wouldn't tell this to an ordinary kid, but neither Uchiha Kagami nor Kakashi were ordinary. Jiraiya knew Kakashi. Sure, he wasn't as naturally gifted as Minato or Kagami, but he had serious potential. After giving him a few tests, he'd take him on as his own student. "Our village has the strongest of the tailed beasts, the Nine Tails. That's what we saw. The one who seals a tailed beast is called a Jinchuriki." Jiraiya's expression turned serious. "Remember this, you can't tell anyone about the Nine Tails. The Jinchuriki's identity is a top secret in the village. If these two weren't potentially going to be his students, Umbu would already be wiping their memories." The sun was starting to set. "Alright, it's getting late. You guys should head home and get some rest. Meet me at the training grounds at 6 tomorrow morning." Dismissed. With Minato doing okay, Jiraiya was itching to get back to his research. The two walked a good distance away from the hospital. Uchiha Jing turned to Kakashi, who was still following him. "Why are you following me? Your place is the other way." "Oh," Kakashi said, snapping out of it. He hadn't realized he wasn't going home, but there was no one at home. Uchiha Kagami didn't have any family either, so he understood Kakashi's situation a little. After all, he was only 7 or 8 years old. Even though Hatake Sakumo hadn't killed himself, Kakashi was essentially alone. "Come back to my place for dinner. Just this once, got it?" "Thank you, Jing. Thank you, for saving my father." After a moment, Uchiha Jing said flatly, "It has nothing to do with me, and you don't owe me anything. Let me make something clear. If my actions benefit you, you don't have to be grateful. If my actions cause you pain, you can resent me. Kakashi, I don't care about your feelings at all. Then why invite me over?" Kakashi was starting to figure out how to deal with the average Uchiha. "Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do." Faced with a monster like the tailed beast, Jing had jumped into action without hesitation to protect his fellow villagers. Uchiha Jing's home was on the edge of the Uchiha compound and covered a lot of land, with a courtyard and all the basics. He was considered pretty well off within the clan. Grandpa's pension was pretty solid, plus there were clan subsidies. At least the Uchiha Kagami family had never had to worry about money. When Uchiha Kagami became a ninja, some of his mission earnings would go to the clan to help families who couldn't support themselves. The Uchiha weren't like the Hyuga, who divided their members into slaves and masters. Even the clan head didn't have the power of life or death over regular clan members. Uchiha Jing had even thought about why Itachi would do what he did. Finally, he had a reasonable guess. It was because he'd never really interacted with average Uchiha clan members. Itachi had been a prodigy since birth, seeing the battlefield at 4 and pondering the village and clan by 7. That was where Fugaku's parenting went wrong. For a genius, that kind of upbringing would make him overthink and fall into self-destruction, because, even if you're a genius, you can't change the world, or people's hearts. Too much smarts can be a curse. People who think they're really smart often end up getting hurt in the end. So would a normal upbringing even help Uchiha Itachi? Maybe it could change him, but Uchiha Kagami didn't have the time or energy to fix him. Uchiha Itachi didn't love the Uchiha. He only loved Uchiha Sasuke. It was easier to destroy him than to reform him. Has Shisui started working with chakra yet? Kakashi asked, noticing little Shisui sitting cross-legged in the yard. He's not a baby anymore. He should be learning, Uchiha Jing said. Then, he saw his grandma cleaning vegetables and quickly took off his shoes and ran over. Grandma, I told you I'd be back to cook, right? You need to rest. His grandmother had been a ninja in her youth, but had retired because of a serious injury. She wasn't that old, but hidden injuries had given her health problems. It wasn't just her body, either. Her husband's death had hit her hard. Those wounds wouldn't heal with time. Grandma looked at Uchiha Kagami with kindness, then turned to Kakashi. I remember you. You're Sakumo's kid, right? This is the first time Kagami's brought a friend home. Kakashi nodded awkwardly, feeling uneasy after the polite greeting. He looked for something to do. He noticed the river fish in the basket and took it out, skillfully preparing it. I usually cook for myself when my dad's not around. Didn't ask. Uchiha Kagami prepped ingredients as he and Kakashi started cooking on separate stoves. Kakashi was a quiet person, but even he couldn't help but talk when he was around Uchiha Kagami. Does Obito live around here? Duh, he's an Uchiha. Uchiha Jing was stir-frying vegetables. Go out and turn left for 300 meters. That's his house. You seem to hate Obito. That's not just, seems. Is it because he, the last one in his class, is giving the Uchiha a bad name? Uchiha Kagami was quiet for a moment. The only sound was Kakashi's fish frying. That's it. You're overcooking the fish. Nope, that's Kakashi style, dry-fried river fish. Your vegetables are turning to mush. Grandma's got bad teeth. She likes soft veggies. Jing, you're a really kind person. The confusion in Kakashi's eyes faded. He could sense the smile beneath his mask. Uchiha Jing shot him a cold look. I'm not into guys. Don't try anything. It's gross. Chapter 18, The Third Great Ninja War, Eve. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Konoha, Year 44, the Second Shinobi World War was over, but years of development brought constant border skirmishes. This time, things were different. A large contingent of Mangekyo ninjas had deserted their village and invaded Konoha's borders, leaving a trail of dead civilians and shinobi. Leaf Border, a lone figure, dressed like a wanderer, made his way through the mountains and forests. The striking silver-white hair marked him as Konoha's White Fang, Hatake Sakumo, even after leaving Konoha village. He secretly aided the Konoha ninjas. Compelled by the frequent border conflicts, those he rescued kept his existence a secret, never revealing it to their superiors. In truth, Orochimaru, the current border commander, had long known about Hatake Sakumo. There was an unspoken understanding between them. Whoosh, starred at a sharp, whistling sound cut through the air. Hatake Sakumo stopped short, dodging the unseen attack. Looking closer, he saw countless needles embedded in the trees, releasing a faint corrosive smoke. Is that Du Senbon, the Sand Village puppeteer? Senbon were needle-like weapons. When poisoned, even the ninja could accidentally succumb to their effects. That's why highly toxic Senbon were usually reserved for the Sand Village puppets. Hatake Sakumo's hand went to his short sword as he quickly scanned for cover. Footsteps approached, and a red-haired youth came into view. White Fang. I've finally found you. The handsome, red-haired boy's face was blank, his tone devoid of emotion, like a puppet. Scorpion of the Red Sand, the Sand Village's prodigy puppeteer. Hatake Sakumo's brow furrowed slightly. He knew this kid. He was known as the most talented puppeteer in Sand Village's history, and the grandson of the Sand Village advisor, Chio. Most importantly, his parents had died by his hand. You're here for revenge. Scorpion nodded, then shook his head. I just want to turn you into a timeless work of art. I'm not a Konoha ninja anymore. Letting you walk away is the best I can offer, Hatake Sakumo said gravely. If you were still a Konoha ninja, he would have eliminated a genius like Scorpion of the Red Sand without hesitation or, at the very least, brought him back to the village alive, but he wouldn't simply stand here waiting to be killed. He was willing to let Scorpion go but was also burdened by the knowledge that this child had lost his parents. Konoha's white fang, how arrogant. Scorpion stretched out his hands, and the ground cracked and broke, a gaping pit opened up, and dozens of puppets shot out. The sky filled with poisonous needles, flying like a rain of blossoms. He can control this many puppets, you've surpassed your parents, starred at a silver-white flash ripped through the air, severing every chakra thread in its path. With a clatter, the needles shattered. Hatake Sakumo's eyes were ice-cold, his blade pointed at Scorpion of the Red Sand. If Chiyo was responsible, she would have warned you. No puppeteer can defeat me. Hatake Sakumo lacked long-range ninjutsu, and his chakra reserves weren't as high as some, but, as long as his opponent was human, Hatake Sakumo would find a way to kill him. Especially a puppeteer, whose body was fragile. They were utterly vulnerable to him. The destruction of the puppets didn't surprise Scorpion. Someone renowned as Konoha's White Fang was expected to have this kind of strength. Granny Chiyo did warn me. That's why. I'm not just a puppeteer anymore. Scorpion's outer cloak ripped apart, revealing his puppet body. Chains coiled around his abdomen like snakes. Hatake Sakumo's pupils contracted. You're insane. It can be repaired no matter how many times it breaks, and it is not limited by life. This immortal art. Isn't it beautiful? You've gone down a dark path. Hatake Sakumo went to raise his sword, but the short sword, so familiar in his hand, felt strangely sluggish. That feeling. Could it be, **TZZZ, the momentary distraction allowed an iron spear to graze his arm, **boom. A huge metal cylinder fell from above, creating a massive cloud of dust. Hatake Sakumo saw it clearly, the figure standing on the metal pillar. No, a human puppet. The third Kazekage. Why would the third Kazekage appear here? Why was the third Kazekage turned into a puppet? Konoha's White Fang, to kill you, I assassinated the third Kazekage. A twisted smile crept across Scorpion of the Red Sand's handsome face. Come on. Let's become immortal together. Magnetic release, iron sand technique. The black iron spread like roots, blotting out the sky. A drop of cold sweat trickled down Hatake Sakumo's forehead. This is, really bad. Konoha Border Command, in Orochimaru's temporary residence. Jiraiya sent you, you're a welcome sight. Long, black hair, elongated golden eyes, purple eyeshadow that stretched to the wings of his nose, and pale skin. The Orochimaru of this time had yet to tread down a path of darkness. He was simply cold. Namake's Minato scratched the back of his head and grinned. Sorry, Lord Orochimaru. The situation at other borders is tense, so Sensei had no choice but to send us. Orochimaru shook his head. Minato, I'm not being sarcastic. Your team is invaluable. You, the youngest Jonin, possess the Flying Thunder God technique. He turned his gaze to the two men behind Minato and smiled. And we have the Uchiha clan's rising star, who advanced to Chunin on the very day he became a ninja. And there's Hatake Sakumo's son, Kakashi, one half of the twin stars of Konoha alongside Kagami. Such enviable talent. After another year of medicinal baths, Uchiha Kagami had reached nearly 5 feet 3 inches. He had shed his childishness, and someone might believe he was 14 or 15. Kakashi, at 8 years old, was a head shorter and hadn't grown much. Twin stars, that's corny, Uchiha Kagami said dismissively. Is Kakashi really worthy of being compared to me? You're right, of course, I can't compare to Master Kagami. I'll beat up anyone who says so when I get back. Kakashi narrowed his dead fish eyes. Uchiha Kagami didn't understand. In those years at the Ninja Academy, Kakashi would get angry whenever he provoked him. When did he start using sarcasm? Namake's Minato turned and clapped them both on the shoulders. Hey! Be polite. Salute Lord Orochimaru first. After Uchiha Kagami, Kakashi passed Jiraiya's test. Now, the three were as close as brothers, even closer than in a standard squad, just like Hiruzen and Danzo. Kakashi, on the other hand, moved up a generation, originally being a disciple of Minato Namake's, but now he'd become his junior fellow apprentice. "It's fine, Minato." Orochimaru waved his hand. "This is an emergency. I should assign tasks first. 12 miles west, we found a group of Sunagakure ninjas, one of whom is very troublesome. Yakura of Sunagakure possesses a rare bloodline limit." As Orochimaru spoke, his gaze lingered on Uchiha Kagami. Among those present, only Uchiha Kagami possessed a bloodline limit, and bloodline limits weren't created equal. Those obtained through training were generally inferior to those inherited by blood. Among inherited bloodline limits, Ijutsu were special. Simply put, bloodline users looked down on ordinary ninjas, and dojutsu users looked down on ordinary bloodline ninjas. Those eyes. No matter how much I train, I can never obtain the I technique bloodline limit. Unconsciously, a hint of greed flickered in Orochimaru's eyes. "For Sensei Jiraiya's sake." Uchiha Kagami said abruptly, the scarlet Sharingan manifested in his eyes. "Next time you look at me like that, I'll gouge your eyes out." Chapter 19 Mirror Flowers and Moon in the Water. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The command room went stone cold in an instant. Orochimaru's smile faded as he stared at Kagami Uchiha, his eyes turning glacial. "Kagami, you know. I guess I never taught you any manners." A chilling surge of chakra felt like a giant snake constricting the air. Kakashi, feeling the pressure first, instinctively reached for his short sword. Minato Namake's looked around, clearly troubled. He held Jiraiya's comrade in high regard, but he also knew this young Uchiha was a handful. This guy was even harder to get along with than your average Uchiha. He didn't even show Jiraiya-sensei any respect when he was teaching him, of course. Jiraiya-sensei wasn't entirely blameless. After all, you can't just go peeking and then blame it on two 8-year-olds. A short blade flashed from Kagami Uchiha's sleeve, razor-sharp with a glint of snow. Time seemed to freeze. "Let's bounce, Minato." Kagami Uchiha turned and walked away. Minato Namake's glanced back at the frozen Orochimaru, and said with a wry smile, "Jiraiya-sensei specifically said you weren't supposed to use that on your teammates." "Teammate? That guy's no teammate," Kagami Uchiha said casually. "If you really need an explanation, I just sensed him eyeing my eyes. The fact that he's still breathing is a favor to Jiraiya-sensei. Orochimaru-sama is a legendary figure. The only reason you caught him off guard with your trick is because you're supposedly on the same side. Don't think that. I get it, you're a naggy blonde, Minato." Kakashi, following behind, clapped Minato Namake's on the shoulder. "Don't sweat it. I'm still white-haired dead fish eyes to most people. Kagami's being downright gentle with you. Kakashi, always the diplomat." Minato gave a bitter smile and looked back. Orochimaru-sama should be breaking free of the illusion soon enough. Back in the command room, Orochimaru summoned a giant snake to coil around Kagami Uchiha. He didn't intend to hurt the kid, just teach the arrogant punk a lesson. He'd planned to release the snake when that smug look turned to panic, and Minato Namake started begging for mercy. "Kagami, remember to be polite to your elders next time." Then, something felt off. "Release." His vision blurred for a moment, then the command room snapped back into focus. Where was everyone? His dark golden pupils contracted. A bead of cold sweat trickled down Orochimaru's forehead. Illusion, when did he cast it? Even against a brat, he'd been prepared for Sharingan illusions. He was sure he hadn't fallen under one at the time. So, it must have been when he drew his sword. Orochimaru remembered seeing the flash of the blade, and then making his move to subdue Kagami Uchiha. Such terrifying eye power, what a frightening illusion. Was this really an 8-year-old kid? This is incredible. In the darkened command room, the greedy giant snake swallowed and spat, anticipating its next meal. "Hey, Kagami, what are the conditions to activate your jutsu?" Kakashi asked, sidling closer. Kagami Uchiha shoved him away impatiently. "Don't you know that ninjas don't just go asking about other people's techniques? That's practically a declaration of war. Kakashi closed the gap, that's just for run-of-the-mill ninjas. We're practically brothers. What's the big deal? Influenced by Jiraiya, Minato Namikaze, and even Kagami Uchiha, Kakashi had managed to overcome the trauma of his father's death, but, spending too much time with Jiraiya had also brought out his inner pervert. He'd even started studying Make-out Paradise. He was nothing like his father. Come to think of it, someone who invented a technique like 1,000 Years of Pain was never going to be a completely serious person. What a mess. The Hatake family. Minato Namikaze watched his two junior teammates bickering with a smile and said, Kagami's technique must be performed with Sodi no Shirayuki. What a stroke of genius, using swordsmanship to perform illusions. How about calling it Uchiha style, Shadow Dance White Moon Illusion. Mirror Image. Kagami Uchiha reluctantly picked a name from his memory. This was the illusion sword technique he developed, inspired by Mariboshi Kosuka. Reflecting pupil power through sword light was just a small trick to use the Sharingan's illusion through another medium. The reason Orochimaru had been controlled was because of Kagami Uchiha's powerful eye power. Ugh, what a boring name. I still think Uchiha Shadow. Stop showing off your naming skills. Kagami Uchiha rubbed his temples wearily. Minato Namikaze was perfect in every way. Even from Kagami Uchiha's perspective, he was a saint without flaws. Shortly after becoming Jiraiya's disciples, Minato Namikaze had taught them both the Rasengan. After getting the inside scoop, Kagami Uchiha realized that Minato hadn't come up with the name Rasengan. Judging by his personality, unless he'd suffered some kind of brain damage, the name of the move wouldn't be less than 10 words. This jutsu contained Minato's love for Kushina, and Kagami Uchiha didn't care enough to argue about naming rights. After pretending to learn the technique for a couple of days, he started asking Minato how to add nature transformation to the Rasengan. He knew his talent wasn't on par with Minato's, he couldn't use cheat codes like Naruto, and he had no clue how to develop a fire-style Rasengan. Minato Namikaze hadn't really thought much about the question. Naruto's Rasenshuriken might be the final form of Rasengan, but Minato didn't need it. He could use Flying Thunder God. He just needed to hold the ball close to his face and launch it. That was powerful enough. Even though it was Kagami Uchiha's request, he still dedicated a lot of time to developing the technique further. Recently, he'd even had some ideas about adding elemental properties to the Rasengan. Wait, why did we come out here in the first place? Kakashi suddenly asked. It was true. They hadn't received any clear mission. Orochimaru had just said there was a team of sand ninjas, but he hadn't said how to deal with them. Minato Namikaze slapped his forehead and said, my bad. I'll go back and ask Orochimaru-sama. What's there to ask? Knowing where the enemy is will be enough. A red glint flashed in Kagami Uchiha's eyes. He'd been looking forward to this war for a long time. This would be the most brutal war in the history of the ninja world, lasting nearly 10 years. Countless ninja deaths caused countless pain, and the war also forged true legends. In this war, Kagami Uchiha wanted to completely change the status of the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha family would be the most powerful family in the ninja world, not just some Konoha Uchiha. Chapter 21 Blade. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A squad of sand ninjas crept through the mountains and forests. The disappearance of a leader always hits an organization hard, but this was more than that. A village's shadow was gone. From the sand village's point of view, the most likely culprit behind the Kazekage's disappearance was their neighbor, Konoha. Only Konoha had the skill to make the Kazekage vanish without a trace. It couldn't have been someone from inside the village. He was the strongest Kazekage ever. The Sand Village Ninja Team, led by Jonin Yagura, aimed to create chaos in the Land of Fire. By disrupting Konoha's forces, they hoped to find the third Kazekage more easily. Suddenly, Yitsang raised a hand, signaling everyone to stop. An eagle's cry echoed nearby, and a huge black eagle dove straight toward them. The giant eagle flapped its wings and hovered in the air, with a young man standing on its back. His face was pale, hinting at a strange coldness, and his eyes were deep, like a bottomless pit. Greetings, everyone from Sunagakure. I am Uchiha Kagami. Yitsang frowned and sneered. Kid, you might wear a ninja headband, but you haven't learned any ninja etiquette. Ninjas are assassins, working in the shadows. You think this is some kind of honorable profession? Whoosh! A red fireball arced towards the giant eagle. The fireball wasn't fast, but it was stable and incredibly hot. This was her bloodline limit, scorch release. Both wind and fire focus on attack, and the property changes formed by the fusion of these chakras are extremely powerful. If that fireball got close, it would instantly evaporate the water in the ninja's body, turning him into a mummy. Yitsung didn't have time for games. Since he was an Uchiha, he had to be dealt with quickly. Bang! Uchiha Kagami dispelled his summoning, and the smoke obscured his vision. Whoosh! A shuriken shot from the smoke, then multiplied. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, until they filled the sky. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Earth Release, Earth Flow Wall. Yitsung quickly used the Earth-style jutsu, raising a thick wall of earth to block the shuriken rain. As a jonin, knowing a few common ninjutsu was expected, she couldn't understand why Konoha would send a kid to stop them. If they knew their location, they should have sent some renowned jonin. As Yitsung mentally complained about Konoha's mistake, she heard the sound of a sharp weapon piercing flesh. Arg! Yitsung turned back to see a dozen of her subordinates lying in pools of blood. How could this be? These were the village's elite chunin. Even a jonin couldn't take them all down this fast. When she saw what was happening, a chill ran down Yitsung's spine. Kakashi pulled the short sword from a Mangekyo ninja's heart and walked toward Minato Namikaze. Sorry, it still took 2 seconds to finish the fight. The scream had come from the ninja Kakashi had targeted. Everyone else, they died before they even felt pain. Minato Namikaze, who had just killed over 10 people, still wore a gentle smile. That's amazing. You're even better than I was at your age. Kakashi knew Minato was just being kind. He remembered Minato rescuing Kushina from a team of cloud ninjas at around the same age. Boom. Yitsung's earth wall shattered. Uchiha Kagami walked through the smoke, looking impatient. There's no need for feints with opponents like these. This is to teach you how to fight as a ninja. Jiraiya-sensei told me to look after you. I think it's necessary for you to learn how to fight. Yitsung gripped her kunai tightly and looked around. She recognized Minato Namikaze, the Konoha jonin who had mastered the second Hokage's Flying Thunder God technique. She quickly assessed the situation. In a direct fight, she wouldn't fear Minato Namikaze. But every village knew about the Flying Thunder God technique. Learning spacetime ninjutsu was incredibly difficult. Mastering the Flying Thunder God technique meant this blonde guy could attack and retreat at will. The fact that he'd instantly killed over a dozen chunin showed he had mastered the technique. If he played a hit-and-run game, she'd be worn down, so, there was only one way. Yitsung pivoted and charged towards Uchiha Kagami. She'd grabbed the Uchiha brat and forced the Flying Thunder God ninja to back off. Instead of running, you're coming at me. A smile touched Uchiha Kagami's lips. Seriously. I'm being underestimated. Since this is my debut, I should get a little more serious. Sodi no Shirayuki resembled a slowly flowing river of stars, emitting an inexplicable glow. For fireball surrounded Yitsung, guarding against Minato Namikaze. If that Flying Thunder God ninja dared to approach, she'd burn him to a crisp. And if he played a feint, she'd attack the enemy and rescue him. Yitsung knew what the Uchiha name meant. He was from Konoha's biggest clan. They couldn't just stand by and watch him die. Minato-sensei. It's fine. Kagami's got this. Minato wasn't worried. He and Kagami had sparred many times. If it weren't for the Flying Thunder God technique, he would have been defeated by Kagami. Compared to Minato Namikaze, everyone pales in comparison. Jiraiya often said that, but now he rarely spoke. That guy is a true genius. Minato exclaimed sincerely. Genius. That word had followed Kakashi throughout his training. Everyone in the Ninja Academy envied him, but compared to Uchiha Kagami and Minato Namikaze, he clearly realized, he was still far from being a true genius. Sukuna's slashing attacks included Dismantle and Cleave. Dismantle was an ultra-high-frequency barrage of slashes. Cleave was the fatal blow. After Uchiha Kagami absorbed and digested Sukuna's slashes, he unleashed Thousand Blades Flow Kagian, a directional high-frequency slash. In fact, its form and attack method were like a storm of blades. Cleave was the adjusted final blow, according to the power of the spell, unless demon subduing Cook was deployed. Activating Cleave required physical contact between Sukuna and the target. Uchiha Kagami activated his Sharingan. Eye power was an extension of Uchiha power. If you could see it, it could be used as a condition for activating a technique. Yi Tsang's movement slowed, as if she were walking in amber. Each tiny movement was magnified. She was aware of it, but it was no use. She was less than 10 meters from the Uchiha boy, but that distance felt like an impossible chasm. The blade's light was as cold as frost and as bright as a crescent moon. He simply swung the sword in front of him. It was such a simple action, but Yi Tsang couldn't comprehend it. It felt like countless junk messages were flooding her mind, paralyzing her thoughts. All the information flooded in at once, important or not, everything was forced directly into her brain. Finally, all that was left was the shrill, deafening screech of cicadas. Sukuna observed the outside world through the seal. He knew Uchiha Kagami was developing this technique, but he hadn't expected him to succeed. Sharingan, it relies on those eyes. The Jujutsu world also had a pair of eyes, similar to Uchiha's Sharingan, but whether it was Sukuna's own perception or information from the outside world, those eyes could evolve and had the potential to become even stronger than the 6 eyes. And Sukuna also knew that this kid was suppressing their evolution. This body, it's even more suited to be my vessel than Megumi Fushiguro. But, this damn seal. Why can't I break it? If this brat gets any stronger, I won't be able to escape. Outside, Uchiha Kagami's body shifted from solid to ethereal, like a wisp of green smoke. Accompanied by the blade, he pierced through Yi Tsang's body. Slashing escape, one blade, Higurashi.